like my face at the beginning. Okay. Today, we are learning about behavior management, which has been my life the past month. So, it's great. I'm a professional. So you can be comforted. Kidding, just in a classroom setting actually counts as different. Not that much different, actually. Okay, so, I'm going to show you a clip from a movie. It's a really good movie. And the clip is going to teach you why this training is so important. So I need your listening ears on so that this doesn't happen to you. Okay. So if anyone's ever seen this movie, it's called Kindergarten Cop. And just so you know a little bit of the background, I think I have them. Oh no. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, just so for some background, he is, I believe, like some kind of, he's a cop, obviously, kindergarten cop. And he has to go undercover into a kindergarten classroom. So obviously he's never dealt with this before.
Thank you.
You know, kindergarten is like the ocean. You don't want to turn your back on it.
No, they're okay. Don't worry. Everything is under control. No. Monsters. What is this?
Aren't you going to break it up? No, 2 more days of this, and you'll quit.
No, don't start this.
So I don't want this to be you at camp, okay? So this is why this training is so important. Okay. So, we're going to kind of break this down into 3 sections today. So we're going to learn about the big ideas of what we need to remember as counselors about kids or campers and their behavior. And then we're going to talk about positive behavior, like noticing those things, and then dealing with negative behavior. So, these are some things to remember about campers. So almost all behavior, good or bad, is like a social thing. Like there's always some kind of connection to a social aspect, right? And something that I love that this talks about is that we are not our behavior. I think a lot of times, and like as I've been a teacher as well, like sometimes when students act out, you have the tendency to take it personally. Like they have a personal agenda to ruin your life. And that's not the case at all. In fact, like it has nothing to do with you at all. They're just being kids, and they have reasons for the things that they're doing. It's not always like logical in our minds because we feel like we're adults and you should know that you don't behave that way, but they're not fully developed yet. Like they're still learning and growing. And so that's something that we'll be able to help them with, is teaching them like good management skills to like hone in that behavior. And so, like, just like where it says here, campers' behavior is about them and their learning. So, make sure that you forget it's like not about you, and this is about like their learning and their experience. Okay, so talking about some positive behavior, I want you to just like talk with the people around you for a little bit and talk about how do we encourage, develop and guide positive behavior in campers. So go ahead. And, okay, bring it back. Hey, listen up.
Hey, listen up.
Okay, I want to hear a couple things that you thought about. So we'll start over here in like whatever groups you had.
Okay.
Any ideas?
Our group discussed like looking for the positive behavior and then like acknowledging it when it does happen. And Bella had a really good idea that she did last year at camp. That like she made it a goal to look for like a good thing in each camper and write them a nice note about it, so that they would know that it was actually appreciated. They could hold on to that, which I thought was really cool.
That's super awesome. I love that, especially because I think a lot of times when we're trying to like manage behavior, we're looking for the bad behaviors, but more importantly, they will respond to us finding the positive in them. I think that's a super good point, and we'll talk about that a little bit too later. Anybody from the middle or this side, or anyone who wants to make a comment of what was shared?
We talked about not pinpointing, but focusing on those bad behaviors when they do happen, not letting them slide by, but also guiding the kids to realize that. So asking them, so okay, like, that kind of goes against the rules, but can you tell me how it goes against the rules?
Mm-hmm.
Having them go through the process of realizing what they did.
Mm-hmm. I think that's super cool because I think that's part of like positive reinforcement is like helping them to know like not only like what they do well, like what Hansel was saying, but that like even in the rules that sometimes can seem negative and like them breaking a rule, like we can help them see why we have that rule and like why that's a positive thing for our camp because it's going to keep people safe or whatever else the case may be. So I love that. Anybody else in the back? Yes, go ahead.
We talked about how it's important that you care to the campers and that they know that you care so that they can approach you and that like if they are acting out, that when they come around, like you still have a good relationship with them.
That's awesome. So maybe positive relationships are a huge part of positive management and positive behavior. I love that. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any other comments? Okay. We are going, oh, sorry. Hey, don't look at the title.
How many times the players wearing white passed the ball?
Okay, so this is going to be a video. I want you to just, you might have seen it before. Probably have. But I just want you to pay attention to the players in white. They're going to be passing a ball. Count how many times they're passing this.
The correct answer is 16 passes.
Anybody else get 16 passes? You counted?
Did you spot the gorilla?
Did anybody see the gorilla?
For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game?
Oh.
Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold.
I didn't watch the whole video, you guys.
When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events. And that's the monkey business illusion.
Okay, so how do you think that we can apply that to positive behavior?
I kind of think it's like you will find what you're looking for, and so if you're always like waiting, like watching the kids to make sure they're not doing anything bad, you'll see when they're doing bad stuff, and it's like always negative. But if you're looking for the good that they did, then you can key in on those good things, and then they'll want to do more good things that you notice.
It's so true. Like, that's so important, especially like there's always good and bad that can be found in like what the campers are doing. And so if we choose to focus on that good, it's a lot more effective. I know like when I'm teaching right now, like I can either be, if everyone's kind of like talking and like doing their own thing, I could be like, okay guys, stop talking. Okay guys, like let's quiet down. I'll wait for you to quiet down. And like that, I mean, wait time works, but like normally the most effective thing that I can do is, oh, I love how Captain's sitting in her seat, she's looking at me, and she's not talking to her neighbor. As soon as I like positively praise that student, everyone, because like they all want to be noticed. Like that's why they're talking. Like they want to get that attention. And it's just nice that if I'm noticing the positive things, they automatically want to be noticed by me. And so they'll all like go straight into like that positive like affirmation that I'm giving to like one of the students. Okay, so the best technique, like we've been talking about, is to actually see all their great, positive, and healthy choices as their behavior. And so when we're working with these campers, like there's two things that we want to be constantly asking ourselves, is what am I looking for, and what do I want to see happen right now? So we ask ourselves these things, and it gives us the opportunity to be like, okay, what is the behavior I want to see? And then you praise that behavior. Because sometimes it's like hard, you're like, okay, they're doing this, and like it's kind of bad, like that's against the rules, like, I don't know, maybe none of them are doing like a positive thing, but it's like, what do you want to see happening? And like find the person who's doing that and praise it. And then like mostly the kids will follow normally. Okay, and the thing about positive praise, like I gave in like the demonstration before with the student, it's like, oh, I love how Captain's sitting at her desk, she's not talking, she's looking at me, she's very attentive. Like those are very specific things that I was saying. So a lot of times I think we want to be like, oh my gosh, you're doing such a good job. Like, oh my gosh, look at you. You're just doing so good. What does that mean? What does good mean? Like what is the exact behavior you want to see from these kids? And you just tell them that. Timely, do exactly when they're, the moment that they're doing that behavior, praise it. And we want to focus on the process and not the product. So going through these things, kind of talked about specific praise. Like I said, the whole good job thing, it's just you need to be very specific. Good job really won't cut it with these kids. And, oh, this is really important. Not all kids are the same. We're not all the same. Sometimes they're not going to like super loud positive praise, and I think that's where the positive relationships will definitely come in. Because if we're getting to know our campers super well, like we'll know how they enjoy being praised. Like if they love attention from everybody else, then like it's going to be super important for us to praise them like publicly when they're doing something good, because then they're gonna love it, you know, and they're gonna want to keep doing that behavior. But some of the campers, like it says here, like some of them might not like that, but they like might like to be pulled aside and shown that like you care enough that you noticed that they did these things, and you need to tell them like right away. Okay, so for this one, I'm just gonna read it because this one's a little bit less self-sponsored. This really means to focus your praise on their effort and on the skills it took to do something. So like being inclusive, respectful, responsible, honest, enthusiastic, rather than the end result, like scoring lots of points or having a great art project. And most of the time, positive behavior gets lost in praise because you're focused on the wrong part. And I had like another experience with this too as a teacher. I wanted the students to be good the whole class period. So I had like numbers on the board, and it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they were talking a lot, I'd move down, sort of like a magnet that I had like underneath the numbers. So if they're out of 5, they're doing really good and they were going to get this reward. But if they had to keep moving down, then it was going to be bad. But I was like focusing so hard on like the end result of them just like being good all of class instead of like throughout the class period of that hour being like, wow, so-and-so, this student normally has a really hard time sitting still this long, but they did awesome. Like, it was harder for me to focus on the little achievements that they were having because I was so focused on like the class as a whole doing something awesome. And so sometimes you can miss those things if you're focusing so much on that. And I think it is important to remember that these kids are individuals. So like look at them individually. Sometimes we just like see them as our campers, as a collective whole and what we want them to do exactly. But praise and celebrate the like little successes that each camper has because of their personality and the things that are hard for them. They have different weaknesses. Okay, so working with negative behavior. Now that like positive praise and behavior, like focusing on that will work a lot of the time, but there are certain circumstances where it will have to be dealt with a little bit differently because maybe that won't work. So the 3 things are dealing with the present moment, working through the consequence to their behavior, and follow-up and support for better choices. Okay, so I want you to talk to your group again. I want you to think of the best ways to handle like a situation where in the moment a camper is making a bad decision. What are you going to do as a counselor? Go ahead and talk to the people around you. All right, hey, listen up. Okay, what did we talk about? Let's have like 3 people respond. At least. There was talking going on, so I know you were talking about something. Yes, Terry, go ahead.
I think a big thing is that your reaction is going to change depending on what making bad choices means. So if like a kid, so if a kid is like crying because their favorite type of cereal is not out for breakfast, it's a whole totally different response than if a 6-year-old's about to jump into the fire pit. Depends. Yeah. There might be fire in the pit. We never know. So like, depending on the situation, you're gonna react differently. Like, I'm the kind of person that if the kid's just like screaming about their cereal, I'm just gonna sit there and stare at them until they stop crying, and then ask them, "Are you done?" Because that's what my mom did to me. I don't know if that's right. Are you done? Are you done? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think you can pick your fights. Like, there's some fights that just aren't worth having. We had a kid who would eat nothing but waffles and Nutella for breakfast. It wasn't worth the fight. We gave him waffles and Nutella. It was just like, you gave him waffles and Nutella. I did.
Some discord among the parents.
It's just like, there are other things to worry about, and if that kid wants to eat waffles and Nutella for breakfast, cool. I'm cool with it.
Is it going to share the Nutella?
Right.
That's the question.
Yeah, for real though. I think that's like super important, especially because like they're at camp too. So like you want it to be a really good time for them. We don't want to force them to do anything that they don't want to do. But it's important, especially when it comes to safety, that we are addressing these things like immediately, because that could harm another camper or harm the camper who's acting out for anything else. Okay, so some of the things that it talks about is planned ignoring. So some campers are disruptive, annoying, etc. So we talked about the kid who's crying because he doesn't have his favorite cereal there, right? Because they're used to getting attention that way. So campers who are responding to things in this way, like ignore it. Actually, Terry had a super insightful comment about like just kind of let them do their thing if it's not hurting someone. Like just ignore it because they're trying to get attention. And the more you ignore it, like the less they'll do it. So give more attention again to the kids who are behaving positively. So in that situation, you'd be like, oh, it's so cool that so-and-so, even though his favorite cereal's not here, like, he's cool with it. Like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know what got that, he's, being flexible, I don't know. You do what you want to do. But just make sure that, like, the positive behavior is phrased in those situations and don't give attention to those who are seeking attention through bad behavior. I actually heard Kibble talk about redirection in their group. And so sometimes kids just need to, like, focus on something else and be engaged in something else. Kids sometimes, like, if they're upset about something, like, the moment you give them something else that's, like, fun, like, they'll be totally distracted and, like, move on to the next thing. And so because there's so many things happening at camp, like, it is nice that we have all those opportunities to, like, engage them in something. But something that would probably be smart before you go to camp is to think about different activities that you could, like, seriously, like, pull out of a hat. Not literally, just, like, pull out of nowhere. Because you were prepared. And, like, it gives the kids something to do. And have, like, a variety of them, because maybe they're not going to take to some of the activities that you did pick, but I'm sure, like, one of them will be solid, and, like, they'll love it, And then calm acknowledgement. So they call this, like, this is a call their bluff strategy. So ask them in a calm and respectful tone to stop what they're doing and do something else. But I like that they talked about being calm, not about, like, stop doing that, do this. We're not going to say it that way. But, like, I don't know. I think we need to always keep our cool when it comes to situations like this, because kids notice when we're getting riled up too, and sometimes they feed off of that because it's, like, the attention thing that they're seeking. So if they can see that they're getting to you, like, they might act up more. I don't know why kids are like that, but they just are. Okay, so working through the consequence of their behavior. So this is about, like, the conversations that we have with our campers when things like this do come up. I know I kind of think I heard a couple of you, maybe it wasn't this time, maybe I'm, like, thinking of interviews too. But we had, like, a lot of case scenarios and stuff where we would pull a camper aside. And a lot of you had brought up that it's important to, like, make sure that they're away from the group, that we're not, like, publicly humiliating them or rebuking them. But, like, pull them aside. And I love this first part. It says, asking a lot of questions. Why do you think that would be important in a situation like this? If there was, like, just some uproar. Especially because most of the time, like it talked about before, behavior is attached to social things. So it normally involves another person.
To understand their intent, their intentions, and just the truth. Well, try to understand the truth of everything, because what we see is not really the truth. But we need to listen to them and see and assess why their behavior was that. Maybe it was not a bad reason. Maybe it was ignorance or fear or whatever.
I love that because, like we said before, the kids are still developing. They're still learning, especially because we have such a huge range. So, like, the range of negative behaviors that you come across will totally be different when it comes to the teens and the 6-year-olds, Like, it's going to be kind of like a different range, but it's important that, like, we understand that they're all developing. Like, they're all learning how to interact with each other, how to have those social behaviors, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable. And so it's important to see the intentions of the kids. And especially hearing, like, all sides of the story, too. I think sometimes, like, we see one thing, but it's not really the truth. Like, maybe the person who comes up to tell on someone who punched them, like, really the first punch was thrown by them. But they were the first one to come tell you about it. And so we kind of have to, like, understand that if one person's coming to tell us, like, that's not the only side of the story. And that's important to get all the information and ask a lot of questions for that. It's very important, especially in the teens. This is important. Number 2, defining choices. Like, it's very important for us to have the kids talk about and work through in their mind by us asking a lot of questions, like what they feel was wrong in that situation. If they don't know, that's a place for us to help them. Like, this is wrong because of this. And then having them talk to you about, okay, what could we have done differently in that situation? What can we do for next time? And like have them work through that. And because a lot of these kids, like, they're smart and they've been taught well. And they know, like, if they just like were so mad and they needed to like punch somebody or say something mean, but they didn't do that. That was not the right thing to do. And that they could have talked about it or told the person how they felt in a respectful way. Like, they know these things, but like let them work through it. Don't tell them what you did was wrong, this is what you need to do. Like, as much as you can, you be a guide and a facilitator in helping them like understand what choices that they were making, why that was wrong, and what they could do better the next time. And then give them that opportunity to try out these new choices that they have and these new plans that they've created with you. And then it's important to like follow up with them, see how they're doing in those goals that they've set. So this kind of going over like asking a lot of questions. I don't know that we need to go over all. So these are just like some of the important like skills that are underdeveloped in children, and I don't mean to say that in like a demeaning way because it's not like that at all. Like, this is just like facts. These are the things that children are still developing in at this time in their life. And so decision making is a big one. I think even as young adults we have a hard time with decision making. I do. So kids especially are going to have a hard time in deciding what they want. And like hypothetical thinking, like what ifs. Like, a lot of them think just very much in the moment. Not a lot of kids like stop and think about what they're going to do before they do it. They just get very emotionally like enhanced to just want to act out the first thing that they want to do. Self-expression, super important. Again, same thing. It's like the way that they express themselves, like the immediate feeling that they have in a situation, they just like want to act on that. And emotional regulation, like keeping calm, social interaction, and social understanding. All these things we're trying to just talk about. We talked about this, defining our choices, have them tell you how they can make it better. And here's like a lot of good like guiding questions to help you do that. It's like, what can you do to make the situation better? What did you do when this happened? How did you respond? And when you did like whatever, then what happened? So it says like keep the camper focused on the behavior and the consequences of that behavior. Okay, so for this, I'm actually going to give all of you, I'm going to put it on the Facebook page and also email it out. But there is a handout from Camp Kesem that talks about a lot of the ways that we can, like a lot of things that we can do when we come across negative behavior and discipline. Because like I talked about earlier, we can use positive praise a lot, but again, there's times where the campers make decisions and a consequence has to be attached to that. And this is like a form of management. Something also that I'm learning as I've been teaching is that like I'll set a rule and I'll tell them like I expect them to obey that rule. I'll normally give them a warning if they don't obey that rule, but then if they continue to have that behavior, like I have to follow through with what the consequence is, and they will know the consequences. I think that's really important for you to have like in your mind as a counselor. Make sure that your I almost said students, sorry, education on the brain. Make sure your campers like know what the rules are, know what the expectations are, and that they know what the consequences are. And I think that helps us a lot because a lot of us, at least this is how I feel, like I don't want to be the bad guy. I want my campers to like me, and I want to be their friends. And I'm like, but I am also the authority figure as their counselor because like I'm there to protect them. And so if they know exactly what's been expected of them and what will happen, it actually takes a lot of the pressure off you. You wouldn't think so, but like it feels a lot better to say to your camper, and you can say it calmly, like, this was the rule, you knew the rule, we talked about this, you know the consequence, so this is going to have to happen. Okay, and how can we change that in the future? It's like a lot better of a conversation than saying, okay, now this is your punishment. And they're like, what? Like, for what? What did I do? Like, and then, you know, that just like causes way more contention. But if they know, like, all the expectations, like, flat out at the beginning, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to have that talk, and they won't feel like you're just coming down on them hard. Like, they already understood the rules, why those rules were important, and that if they don't follow it, that they're going to have a consequence. And a lot of kids are really good at owning up to what they've done wrong. I've actually learned that a lot lately, so they won't be mad at you forever, I promise. Or even they might not get mad at you at all. Like, I've had a lot of students who are like, okay, like, yeah, I did that, and I know that it was the wrong thing. Anyways, I will send this to you guys. I know it's like a lot of information, so I don't want to take up your whole night like going through all of it. This is really important. It's kind of fun. It gives you some like case scenarios right here with different age groups, so it can like get you thinking about like the type of things that you might see with your specific age group once we assign those. And it will help you also with like Camp Custom. Let's see what Camp Custom policies. But also like preparing to have like a difficult conversation. Like these are really important things to know as a counselor, so that you feel a lot more prepared if these things start to happen, and so that you're not going to feel like the bad guy. Because those are really hard conversations to have, especially when you love your campers and you want them to love you. But you're there to protect them and keep them safe, and keep all the other campers safe as well. So does anybody have any questions about behavior management? Any concerns that you might have going into camp? No? If that is good, then I will bring up the roll, and you guys can sign out, and then enjoy the rest of your evening. Yay. Oh, thank you. I'm going to actually stop this.